Well, welcome back to my kitchen table. This might be the last kitchen table YouTube conversation we have for a while. Next Sunday, we'll meet back at the Promise Building for an in person worship celebration. Woo-hoo. With that in mind, I have another question for us to consider this week. If you had to select two or three, maybe four things that were needed to flourish as a human being, what would you choose? Now, I'm not talking about the basic things we need to survive, like air and water and food. I'm wondering about the essential things we need to flourish in life and faith. What would you put on your list of essential ingredients for human life? I have a friend who likes to say Jesus came to save the world, and he did it by eating and drinking. My friend will then point out all the places in the gospel stories where you find Jesus at dinner parties or festivals, eating and drinking and talking about the wonders of the kingdom of God with his friends. That's one of the reasons the Church of the Promise created the Table Cafe. We wanted to live like Jesus and have a place where we could share meals and share life with our neighbors. A place where we could build community and experience God's presence over a plate of parm fries. In case you didn't know, the Table Cafe is going to open back up on July 1st. We've got a BLT sandwich with your name on it. One of the dinner parties in the Bible that I like to think about is the meal Jesus shared with Mary and her sister Martha. Do you remember the story? Martha is sweltering over the stove in the kitchen, preparing a big meal for Jesus, and Mary is in the living room, sitting at his feet, listening to Jesus tell stories. Whenever I read this story, I can hear the pots and pans banging in the kitchen while Mary and Jesus are laughing in the living room. The banging pots and pans grow a little louder as time goes on, and then finally I hear the cabinet door slam right before Martha comes storming around the corner to register her complaint. Lord, don't you care that my sister has let me do the work by myself? For crying out loud, tell her to help me in the kitchen. As Jesus responds, I can actually feel the chaos and the tension leave the room. Martha, you're worried and upset about many things, but few things are needed, or indeed only one. Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken away from her. That's the question I'm asking. What are the few things that are needed for a human life to flourish? What are the essential things a community needs to blossom and bloom? What are the essential things needed for a faith community to fulfill its purpose and produce spiritual fruit? I remember when my old friend Howard Olds preached about this story a long time ago. He wondered if Jesus was telling Martha, you're worried and upset about fixing a big fancy meal when a sandwich will do. One thing is plenty. One sandwich is enough. Martha, Martha, you're worried about so many details and making such a good impression that you're missing the point of my visit. Let's eat a sandwich and settle down and experience God's presence together. What few things are needed for human life to flourish? In light of our current reality, here's another way to ask the question. What has the COVID pandemic and the past 3 months of social isolation taught us about the essentials for life and faith? Have you been reevaluating your life and your priorities? How do you want to spend your time and your energy going forward? The same question can be asked about the demonstrations and the protests we've witnessed over the past month regarding racial inequity in our world. What is essential for us to create a world where the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness is accessible to every person? What few things are needed for us to shift the culture and help make a better world for everyone? What few things are needed for human life to flourish? Here's the reason I'm asking the question. Next Sunday, we will return to the Promise Building for our Sunday morning worship celebration. The way we worship and how we spend our time together will be very different. Sitting 6 feet apart, wearing masks, listening to worship songs instead of singing them, not sharing communion from a common loaf of bread, no coffee pot, no hugs from John Payne. It's going to be very different. Therefore, it's important to discuss what is essential. During the month of July and maybe the month of August, we're going to focus on the basics of worship, the basics of Christian community, and the basics of spiritual discipleship. And I would like to hear from you as we prepare for the summer worship celebrations. What do you consider essential for building up your faith and your life with Christ? I really want to hear. I really want to hear from you. What is essential for our community to flourish in its life and mission? We're going to talk about these questions during our Zoom meeting today. But if you can't Zoom with us, I really would like for you to send me your thoughts on my Facebook page, or you can private message me. It will be fun and helpful to hear from you. Whether you worship with us at the Church of the Promise or not, I would love to hear your responses. I would love to see the answers to this question. Your answers will help us plan and help us create a future together. What are the essential things you need to flourish in your life